Have you ever looked at your life, surrounded by the wreckage of broken dreams and unanswered prayers, and quietly whispered into the dark, God, where did you go? Have you ever felt the suffocating weight of a silence so heavy that it makes you wonder if your prayers are even making it past the ceiling fan? Sis, can we be honest for a minute? It is so easy to smile on Sunday morning, to lift your hands during worship, and tell everyone you're blessed. But then Monday hits, and honestly, when you're staring at a bank account that won't stretch, the pain feels completely and utterly overwhelming. Or maybe you are looking at the empty chair where a relationship used to be, wondering how your life ended up so completely different than planned. Perhaps you are holding a medical report that didn't bring the good news you fasted for, feeling a cold wave of fear wash over your heart. Maybe you've been there, or maybe you're there right now, sitting in the quiet stillness of your room, feeling completely isolated from the world. You look around at other women in your church, and it seems like their prayers get answered on speed dial, while your life remains stagnant. They get the marriage restoration, they get the financial breakthrough, they get the peaceful home, but you are still waiting, alone in the dark. And the enemy loves to whisper in that darkness, telling you that God has passed you over or that you are fundamentally disqualified from blessing. He loves to tell you that you've done something wrong, or worse, that God simply doesn't care about your broken heart anymore. I don't say this to condemn you. I say this because I love you, and because I have been exactly where you are sitting today. I know what it feels like to feel completely abandoned by the creator of the universe while trying to keep a brave face for others. But there's something most believers miss when they are walking through the painful valley of God's long and quiet silence. We'll come back to that in a moment, but first we need to look at a woman in the Bible who felt the exact same way. Let's open our Bibles to the Book of Ruth and look closely at a hurting woman named Naomi who lost everything she held dear. The word tells us in the English Standard Version that after years of famine and immense grief, she decided to return to her homeland. She had buried her husband and both of her young sons in a foreign land, leaving her completely vulnerable and stripped of security. Listen to her raw words. Do not call me Naomi, call me Mara, for the Almighty has dealt very bitterly with me. She said, I went away full, and the Lord has brought me back empty. The Almighty has brought great calamity upon my life. Can you feel the deep, unfiltered ache in her voice as she stood before her old friends who barely recognized her face? She didn't just feel hurt by life, she felt targeted by God Himself, believing His divine hand had turned completely against her future. She literally changed her name from Naomi, which means pleasant, to Mara, which means bitter, embracing her identity as a forgotten woman. And this changes everything because it shows us that even faithful believers reached points of absolute crushing spiritual exhaustion. They reached moments where they couldn't see God's hand, looking only at their empty homes and concluding that God had abandoned them. But there's a massive difference between what we perceive in our pain and what God is actually performing in the heavenly realms. You see, Naomi was looking at her life through the narrow lens of her immediate tragedy and her painful time in Moab. She thought her story was over, believing that the heavy silence of God meant the absolute and permanent absence of His favor. But God was already moving pieces on a chessboard she couldn't see, bringing the rain and the harvest back to Bethlehem. He had already positioned a wealthy, righteous man named Boaz in a field, preparing for a divine encounter that would change history. He had already woven the fierce loyalty of Ruth into Naomi's life, sending a companion to walk through the dust with her. Naomi thought she was returning home to die in her deep bitterness, completely unaware that she was walking toward the lineage of Jesus. If Naomi had never lost what she lost, she never would have returned to Bethlehem to fulfill her ultimate prophetic destiny. Do you see it, sis? Your greatest season of emptiness might actually be the strategic setup for your ultimate supernatural restoration. We'll come back to how that applies to your specific pain in just a second, so don't lose your heart just yet. Sis, let's bring this right into your living room and talk about the heavy burdens you've been carrying all by yourself. What is the Moab you are crying over today? And what is the painful loss that made you want to give up completely? Can we be honest for a minute? It hurts deeply when you do everything right according to Scripture and things still go wrong. It hurts when you read about God's goodness, but your daily reality feels incredibly bad, heavy, and confusing to your soul. I say this because I love you. Stop measuring God's eternal love for you based on the temporary chapter you are living. You are reading page 50 of your book, but God has already written page 300 with a beautiful, victorious finish. The enemy wants you to believe that the silence means rejection, but in God's kingdom, silence is often a sign of deep preparation. He doesn't pull away because he's done with you. He is drawing you closer to his heart rather than just his blessings. There is so much hope for you today, because if you are still breathing, God is not finished writing your beautiful story. Your name, your situation, and your broken heart are engraved on the very palms of the hands that hold the universe together. Every single tear you have wept on your kitchen floor has been caught and treasured by a Father who loves you immensely. You are not abandoned. You are in a holy transition, being refined into a vessel of honor for His greater glory. Let's go to the Lord in prayer right now, asking Him to pour out His comfort and peace over your life. Lord, comfort my sister's broken heart, break the spirit of bitterness, and remind her that your promises are still true today. Thank you for spending time with me, sis. Please subscribe, share this video, and remember that He is still working for you.